Thank you, Maddie. Welcome everyone to Johnson Consulting Conversations. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that affects every funeral home and every family you serve, and that is transforming the funeral payment experience from financial burden to genuine peace of mind. And for those joining us for the first time, these conversations are designed to bring you real-world insights from industry leaders who are making a difference in how you serve families. And today's discussion will provide you with practical tools, dialogue strategies, and actionable solutions that you can implement immediately. And I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today, Deanna Wilkinson, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Express Funeral Funding. Deanna has been leading the sales and marketing efforts at Express Funeral Funding since 2017, bringing nearly a decade of funeral service industry experience to her role. She is a Maryland native and a Towson University graduate with a degree in marketing and mass communications. And Deanna began her funeral service career in 2015 with one of the nation's largest casket suppliers before joining Express Funeral Funding. And her leadership extends far beyond Express Funeral Funding as past president and former board member of the International Memorialization Supply Association, where she has been very instrumental in advancing industry standards and building partnerships with funeral and cemetery associations nationwide. And what I believe what makes Deanna's perspective particularly valuable is her deep understanding of both the operational and emotional challenges that funeral service professionals face every single day when helping families navigate financial arrangements during their most difficult times. And like myself, you have traveled the country and beyond, Deanna, and you learn from funeral directors firsthand. And I want to welcome you to Johnson Consulting Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great introduction. It's so exciting to be here, and I'm happy for the opportunity and to share some insight and some knowledge with all the people on here today.
And I'd like to start with you telling us a little bit more about your role as VP for Sales and Marketing at Express Funeral Funding. And you get to work alongside Andy Buckman, the president, and would love to hear more about that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So as our Vice President of Sales and Marketing, I lead our strategic vision for connecting with funeral and cemetery professionals across the country. I oversee our sales, marketing, and our client relations departments, and together we develop impactful initiatives that ensure our brand reflects our core mission, which is to simplify the insurance assignment process and relieve families of financial stress during their most difficult time. Working with Andy Buckman, if any of you know that guy, it is a show to work with him. So always entertaining, always a good time. We always say if we're not laughing, we're crying. So it's an honor. He's super knowledgeable, super smart, and knows many funeral professionals across the space and vendors alike. So great resource of knowledge too.
And the mission of relieving financial stress really resonates with our guests and our attendees joining us today. And of course, all of the Johnson Consulting clients as well, and Express Funeral Funding clients. And I know that many of the people joining us, they've heard the term at-need life insurance assignment funding, but I want us to break that down for everybody. Express Funeral Funding, what we know, is the largest in the nation, privately held at-need life insurance assignment funding company. And what does that mean in practical terms for the funeral homes you serve and the families that they serve?
Sure. Yeah, that's right. So, but practically speaking, it means that we provide funeral homes with immediate funding based on verified life insurance policies. So for our funeral home and cemetery customers and their families, they're not waiting on verification and payment from insurance companies. Our customers get paid upfront, which protects their cash flow. We streamline the insurance assignment process and eliminate that administrative burden, which allows families to focus on grieving and planning a meaningful remembrance with their funeral professionals instead of navigating claim paperwork and the challenges that are involved when verifying life insurance.
Immediate funding is such a game changer when you consider what families typically face. And I want us to paint a picture for our audience. The traditional insurance claims can take 90 days or more to process. Can you walk through what that waiting period is typically and what it looks like for grieving families and why it does create a significant burden?
Yeah, so typical, verification and payment from insurance can take 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months. Sometimes it can even take a year if you have a pending death certificate or a unique case. So for grieving families, a 90-day wait can be extremely stressful, and they're often facing unexpected expenses, and many don't have liquid funds to pay out of pocket. So the delay, it can cause, financial strain, delay services, and even result in that family going into debt. So it adds an unnecessary emotional and logistical burden at a time when families are already feeling overwhelmed. So we really try to eliminate all of that.
That 90-day waiting period is heartbreaking considering what families are already feeling, which are feelings of being overwhelmed in that time period. And what we know about EFF, as it's affectionately known, is that payment is made within the 24-72 hours. And to some, that may sound too good to be true. But I want you to talk through Express Funeral Funding's three-step process that really transformed the experience and allows the payment to be processed in 24 to 72 hours and what that means in practice.
Yeah, so our process, submission, verification, and funding, it's designed to be seamless. Once we receive the required documents, our claim team handles all the legwork with the insurance company. So that 24 to 72 hour verification and payment window means that families can move forward with services and that funeral homes will have funds in hand, oftentimes before services even take place.
So the speed is very incredible, but I imagine there are some funeral directors that do have concerns about risk. And that brings us to something that you call full non-recourse protection. So that concept of full non-recourse protection, it's highlighted prominently in Express Funeral Funding materials and different content that you share with potential clients and current clients. Can you explain exactly what that means and why it's so important for funeral homes to understand?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are really proud to stand behind the full non-recourse model. And what this means is if a policy is denied or it underpays for whatever reason after we've advanced funds to the funeral home or cemetery, they're not responsible for paying us back. So we take on 100% of the risk. And that's crucial because it allows our funeral home and cemetery customers to serve families confidently, knowing their payment is secure regardless of the outcome with the insurance carrier. And I mean, what an embarrassment to have to call a family post services, to try even if you can track them down post funding. So it really, our full non-recourse model, we are really proud to stand behind that and be a great, carrier for our partners.
So taking on all of that risk completely changes the equation for funeral homes. I want to talk about how it actually impacts daily operations from an operational standpoint. How does partnering with Express Funeral Funding change the day-to-day workflow for funeral homes, particularly around payment processing and cash flow?
Yeah. So it streamlines operations immensely. Instead of the staff chasing down insurance paperwork, sitting on hold with insurance, or waiting on checks, they simply submit a claim over to us and then they can move on with their day-to-day work. So it stabilizes cash flow for the business, reduces administrative load for the staff, and it ultimately creates a better experience for families and the staff at the funeral home or cemetery.
So reducing the administrative burden, that is huge. And I think one of the biggest difference makers that Express Funeral Funding offers is the family pay option that goes beyond just covering funeral costs. It's one of the most interesting aspects of the services that you're able to focus on, where it's entirely looking at and having the conversation about those excess insurance proceeds. Can you share with us a real world example of how this has helped a family or families beyond just covering funeral cost?
Yeah, absolutely. So our family pay option allows for advancements of additional funds when they're not being utilized for immediate services. So these can be used for future services, or they could be used for the immediate needs of the family, from travel for family members, maybe just needing cash on hand for bills or medical expenses. Bills don't stop coming in when mom or dad pass away. So I've got two stories, kind of one on each of the spectrum here, I guess you would say. So we had a family, this was probably almost over a decade ago. We had a family, they had two young boys, and the father ended up passing of terminal brain cancer. So you can imagine all the medical bills, over time. The family had gotten really behind on some of their payments and their mortgage payments, and they ended up actually having massive farmland, and it was essentially going to go into foreclosure within a week, unless they were able to advance, come up with a large sum of money, essentially. So fortunately, the husband did have a really sizable policy. I think it was a little over $1 million. And we were actually able to advance over $300,000 to save this family farm and keep that in. And that meant the world to them. I think we still get Christmas cards to this day. So that was, sort of a larger sum of money for the family pay. But then on, the lower end, because, right, families are needing funds for really anything, similar kind of situation. Two young boys, father passed away, and they didn't have suits to go to their father's funeral. So, mom took out a couple $1,000 so the sons could get suits to go to their funeral. They were able to help some family members travel in for those services. So it really is a great feeling to be able to provide this. Essentially, it's an additional financial service that our customers can offer and extend to their families to utilize in their most difficult times, or to plan for future services as well.
Those stories are really powerful, from saving a family farm to something as simple as buying funeral suits for family members. It really shows the human impact of what it is that you do offer to funeral homes and families. And I appreciate you mentioning the administrative burden that is relieved behind the scenes. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, and especially look at the training materials that you do provide for the Express Funeral Funding clients. I like that the training materials emphasize eliminating unnecessary claim paperwork. Can you quantify how much administrative burden this typically removes from both the funeral homes and families once you sit down with clients and train them on the process and how to work with families?
Yeah, absolutely. So we like to provide our customer base all the tools and resources. We still come up with things today. If our customers need it, we're going to create it. So our compassionate dialogue guide, that's a resource that we provide to our customers to help them navigate these difficult financial discussions. And for the administrative burden, it's a significant lift. On average, funeral homes might be managing 6 to 8 documents if they were filing in-house. And that could be from lengthy claim forms. I mean, prudential claim forms is 14 pages alone. So, you could be filling out claim paperwork, small estate affidavits, heirship affidavits, W-9 forms, tracking down death certificates, maybe completing same name affidavits. These are all documents that we can complete for a majority of the cases to remove that administrative burden. And on average, our process reduces that administrative time by about 2 to 4 hours, per case. So, if a funeral home, they're filing life insurance in-house, it's going to take typically 2 to 4 hours. So for firms that are seeing a high volume of families utilizing life insurance, this adds up to hundreds of hours annually that we're able to save staff just in administrative burdens alone.
Those numbers are staggering, considering it's hundreds of hours annually that can ultimately be redirected to serving families. Now, when it comes to actually presenting options to families, I know that there is an art to having that conversation effectively with them. And the Compassionate Dialogue Guide, and Maddie, if you could show that on the screen one more time for our audience, this guide provides very specific dialogue examples because in talking to your funeral home clients, what those common mistakes are happening behind the scenes in introducing those funding options to families. Could you shed some light on what those common mistakes are?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're having a financial discussion with a family during the loss of a loved one, that's difficult to navigate. So this guide is really jam-packed with tools and resources to help you navigate those difficult conversations. I would say that maybe one common misstep is presenting life insurance payment as an option too late in the arrangement process after decisions have been made. Another could be using overly technical language. But families need clear, compassionate communication, and we encourage directors to introduce funding as a benefit rather than a backup plan if cash or check doesn't fall through.
That makes sense. And timing and language, that's everything in these sensitive conversations. And I imagine that the approaches are different depending on when you're having these discussions and the situation that the family has been presented with. What's the key difference in how families respond to funding options in an at-need versus a pre-need conversation?
Sure. So, in an at-need situation, the urgency is high, right? They're looking for fast solutions, immediate solutions. We want to get these services taken care of. While pre-need families can typically be more focused on longer-term planning and often surprised to learn they can even structure funding in advance for those plans. So the tone is more proactive, and the conversation often includes future estate or beneficiary planning.
The shift from reactive to proactive is always an interesting conversation to have with the directors and pre-need specialists. For families in an at-need situation who are focused on immediate solutions, how do you help the funeral directors explain the immediate benefits?
Yeah, sure. Really, when you're not presenting families all of their options, you're doing them a disservice. So we provide talking points that focus on timing and empowerment. Families appreciate knowing that they can access their funds quickly without waiting weeks or often months for insurance companies to pay them. So, directors can say things like, with our funding provider, you'll receive any remaining funds within days, not months or weeks or years.
And let's dive in a little bit deeper into that suggested dialogue and how you help funeral directors through training explain to families that they can receive the remaining insurance funds immediately rather than waiting months.
Yeah, so be transparent and be empathetic, right? When we help directors show families the full value, the immediate access to funds, the reduced stress, that reduced administrative burden we're talking about here, and no out-of-pocket expense, no out-of-pocket costs, essentially. So our fees they're minimal and they're disclosed upfront. So if a family chooses not to move forward, or if we find the policy is not in good standing, there's no charge and there's no obligation to use us, right? That's one of the benefits of utilizing us, is to find out if a policy is actually in good standing. And if it's not, that's okay too. It's better to go back to the family and say, we're not able to utilize the life insurance. Can we come up with another means of payment today? So while we're not always giving the best news, we're going to be giving transparent news.
Clear communication is essential, especially when speaking to families who are in crisis, and some families are facing that financial distress. They are understandably skeptical about any additional fees or signing additional paperwork, perhaps. What advice do you give funeral directors who are working with families who are feeling the financial distress and feeling skepticism towards any sort of additional fees?
Yeah, again, disclose those upfront and be transparent. If most of the time, families, they never bat an eye at our fee, right? Because we're taking on all of that additional work. They don't have to worry about anything. It's an easy process for them. The families that do, bat an eye or may have a little hesitation with that fee, typically they'll pull out a checkbook, or they'll pay with cash, and that's okay too. We just want the service to get paid for. So fee hesitations, they're not always super common, but when they are, they can be easy, not easy per se, but more simple to navigate than what you would expect.
We know that transparency builds trust, which is absolutely crucial. And of course, family dynamics can complicate things too, especially when multiple people are involved in those decisions. When a family is dealing with multiple beneficiaries, how does Express Funeral Funding simplify the coordination process?
Sure. So when there are multiple beneficiaries signing, I'll just say we recommend first and foremost as a best practice that we always have all potential beneficiaries sign our assignment to prevent any delays. So when claim forms are required, we're able to complete those on behalf of the beneficiaries and help manage all the documentation that's needed for multiple beneficiaries. So we're ensuring that everyone's on the same page, and our team communicates any necessary information directly to our funeral home or cemetery customers to help simplify that process as well. So we're not, coming in as a third party and interfering with the families. We're working directly with our funeral home or cemetery customers to pass any messages along, but we're able to organize all that claim documentation and anything needed for verification so that we can keep the process moving and get services paid for.
Having the coordination behind the scenes with the Express Funeral Funding team members work with all the moving pieces is incredibly invaluable. And sometimes families don't even know what policies exist, or they may have incomplete information. So how do you train Express Funeral Funding client funeral service professionals to handle those situations where families may not have complete policy information, or they're not sure if a policy exists?
Yeah, so that's very common, right? You may have the family that walks in with a shoebox full of policies. We don't know what's good. Mom stopped paying the premiums on these. We think this one, might have had a let us do all that legwork for you, right? So just with basic information like the name, the date of birth, social security number, and at least an idea of the insurance company, we can often locate and verify policies on the family's behalf. So it's one less task for the director or the staff to worry about. And oftentimes we'll find additional policies that the family didn't even know about. So it can be a benefit in that way too.
Well, I've been to the Express Funeral Funding headquarters a few times, and I can attest to the energy and the team players that work there on behalf of funeral homes and helping families. And it's very evident from the moment you walk in to meeting the different team members that they really truly do always put the best interest first and at heart, working on behalf of Express Funeral Funding clients and making sure that they are committed to the detective work to uncover any surprises for families that may be there. And even with all the benefits, I imagine that some families do have concerns in using a funding service. What are the most common objections or concerns that families do have about using a funding service? And how do you recommend funeral directors addressing those concerns?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your feedback about our team. That I will share that message with them. I know they'll really appreciate that. And thank you for taking note of that too. We really do care about our customers greatly. To your question, some families might worry that it's too good to be true or fear that, maybe utilizing us could delay services. But we encourage, our directors to explain the process with confidence and with clarity. It's safe, it's fast, and it's risk-free. So once families understand we're advancing their own money, they're relieved and they're grateful. Another objection, potentially we talked a little bit earlier, could be about fees. But most families, they never bat an eye at our fees. And if, again, there are questions or hesitation, we'll typically pull out that checkbook and services are covered that way.
Let's talk about those funeral homes that may be hesitant about bringing on another partner. For those potential funeral home clients that are hesitant on doing just that, how do you address those concerns?
Yeah. So we're not, just any old third party. We're your business partner, we're your family, and our goal is to elevate our funeral home and cemeteries partner service offerings, not complicate it. We stand behind we stay behind the scenes otherwise, and our directors and staff that we work with, they retain full control of the arrangement process. So EFF, we're here to help and provide solutions, not interfere. We want to make your lives as easy as possible.
That partnership approach versus a vendor relationship, it does make all the difference. I am curious about trends that you're seeing in the pre-need space. What trends are you seeing with pre-need specialists about incorporating funding options into discussions?
Yeah, so this is definitely a greater topic, right? So cremation trends on the rise, families changing their mind about traditional service options. Things are changing, so it's more important to secure, those services now at what we would consider a reasonable cost. So more pre-need specialists are utilizing funding, insurance assignment funding, to address long-term planning and financial flexibility. They're showing how families can ensure future services are covered and excess proceeds go directly to beneficiaries. So it's part of the growing trend towards life planning and not just funeral planning.
The evolution towards comprehensive life planning is significant. And as we wrap up, I'd like to hear your thoughts on where the industry is heading.
Yeah, sure. So, funeral services and financial solutions, the two cannot function without each other. So I'd hope as a profession, we continue to search for financial solutions and opportunities for the families that we're serving. Families expect simplicity and transparency and immediacy, really, in every financial transaction, and especially funeral arrangements. So, EFF, we're at the forefront of that evolution, and we'll be continuing to deliver tools that modernize the experience without losing that compassion or care. And we'll continue to search for those solutions because finding payment for funerals is it's a great concern for a lot of our customer base that we work with, and for families too. So we're going to be continuing to find, great solutions for our customers.
And I appreciate Express Funeral Funding going in the direction of providing not only in-person or virtual training, but also effective training materials to your funeral home clients, where funeral directors and pre-need specialists will find extremely beneficial in having the right words to say and feeling confident in having those important conversations with families. This has been a great and insightful conversation. I want to check in with Maddie to see if any questions have come in our chat box.
Absolutely. So some of these may be getting in the weeds. It may be require further conversations with Deanna down the line, but I will throw them out here. So Robert asks, will it only take 24 to 72 hours for group policies?
So group policies are the, the claims that do kind of throw those out, throw those claim outliers. They extend that time period a little bit. That 24 to 72 hours that we are funding within includes all of our claims. So that's the group claims, difficult FEGLI claims, right? OPM, policies through the government. That's all inclusive. So there are cases where group claims, right? You have to talk to an employer. So you've got to track down that HR department. Oh, well, Betty's out for vacation for the week. So sometimes those things can delay that process. Independent claims can be a lot easier to verify and fund than a group claim. But our team is here to communicate that timeline to you so that you can better plan with your families. And if your funding provider is not doing that, then they're providing you a disservice. So, yep.
Awesome. And then also, Lisa asks, how do you handle payment of additional insurance funds when Medicaid is involved?
Sure. So Medicaid is not typically something that we would be working with. So we're all at-need life insurance assignments. So the family would pass away, and then we would be utilizing that one's life insurance policy at that time period. So Medicaid doesn't quite fall into our scope of work quite often, really at all.
Awesome. And let's see here. Oh, one final thing. Someone is asking about the recording. We love to hear that. So something to remind everyone of is that we are once again going to send a follow-up email that will include a link to this recording, as well as Lacey will have her recap blog, and we'll provide a link to the recording in that as well. So please be on the lookout. That will come to you guys within 24 to 48 hours. We'd love to hear how much everyone is interested in seeing the recaps.
Thank you.
And Maddie, feel free to include my contact information in that follow-up too. I so thank all of you taking time out of your days to hop on this chat with us. And if you have any questions you'd like to, call, text, or email me directly, I'll make sure that I provide you my cell phone, and feel free to blast that out to the masses. I'd be happy to talk to anybody.
Absolutely. It will be needed. So we got another question, and the person basically directly says that they're probably going to have to speak with you more. This is more of an inside question. How do you find out the death benefit amounts from insurance companies? I can tell you the amount of times I've called and started a claim, and they won't tell me what is in it. So I can't budget with my families. Does this happen to you all, and how do you get around that?
Yeah, so right, each insurance company has, and policy has its own unique structure. There could be, policy limits. So if there's a certain threshold, then the policy, requires this or that. So as far as finding policy benefit amounts, it really is specific to that insurance carrier, that policy. I can tell you that our operations team is going through a 22-step verification process, and they're asking all the questions to get to those details. Some of these insurance companies, you may have had to do it yourself. You play the game, press a button on the dial tone if it's over $10,000, or if hang up if it's if it's under 7 and not going to be able to utilize this. Sometimes we have to play those games with the insurance company, but often because we have been working with insurance companies for 20 plus years, right? We've got vice presidents' numbers, specialized supervisors. So sometimes if we need to backdoor and get more information, we can do that.
Awesome. Well, lots of great info there. Thank you so much. Oh, let's see here.
Maddie, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the most questions that we have asked to our guests.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, let's see here. If the family does not know who the beneficiary is, do you find out who it is so that we can have the right person to sign the paperwork?
Yeah, that's a great question. These are all really great questions, by the way. So we do always recommend, so that's another one of those navigating with the insurance company questions we kind of have to do sometimes. But we always say best practice, whoever you think could be a beneficiary, if it's aunt, uncle, cousin. Sometimes you have the families with 18 kids and counting. Have them all sign the assignment, right? It won't hurt if the person is not entitled to the policy, because insurance will only pay out to who the policy is entitled to. So if we happen to have a wrong beneficiary signing, that's better than calling the family back in and trying to track them down to come back in to sign more documents. So we can help navigate those beneficiary questions, and often it's just next of kin in some cases, but we do recommend have everybody sign. That covers best practice.
Awesome. I'm like creating little spaces just in case we get some little typers going.
Yeah, no,
but
please.
but I think we can close it out. Thank you so much, Deanna, and Express Funeral Funding. Such an amazing service, so needed. Oh, and here we go. Another question.
Yeah.
What about pending death certificates?
That's a great one. So number one reason you should utilize a funding company is pending death certificates. We will still advance these proceeds and we'll wait on the death certificate. So you may have that pending homicide case. It's going to take you 6 months before you get paid. That's the perfect excuse to utilize a funding company. What we'll do is advance those funds, and then we'll wait for you to get the death certificate. And then once you send that to us, we forward it on to the insurance company, and then they pay us back. So we wait on those. Definitely pending death certificates, send those all day. We don't want you to wait on those. We'll wait on them.
Well, there you go. Let's see here. One more. What happens if the beneficiary has preceded the insured's death?
Sure. So this happens often, right? So mom named dad, dad named mom, one passes away before the other. Oftentimes we need a death certificate of that past loved one. And then typically it could go to next of kin, or there could be an estate situation, which those can be a little more difficult to navigate, but that's why our team is here to help you navigate those and provide you all the tools and tips. I cannot take any credit for our operations team. They are the best in the world. They'll see a claim number come through and be able to associate it with this policy, this insurance company. They've got numbers memorized, and they're really awesome. So our team definitely is super knowledgeable and can help navigate any of those difficult situations that may arise, because they most certainly do.
Awesome. Well then, do you pay out in the beginning if the payout is going to the estate?
So it depends, right? So some policies will allow us to pull from the estate just for funeral services. Sometimes there are probate situations that elongate the estate planning. So yeah.
Go both ways there. Let's see. All right. Wow.
Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we're good to go. I'll pass it on back over to Lacey.
Yeah,
it's very clear that Express Funeral Funding is transforming the entire experience for families during their most vulnerable time. And it's more than just solving financial problems for them. So thank you for sharing more about the operations team and how they're working behind the scenes to help families. And there are so many clear takeaways, Deanna, to make sure that families and funeral homes feel that peace of mind, which is so incredibly important. And the compassionate dialogue guide with best practices that Maddie shared the screenshot of, that can be implemented immediately for both at-need and pre-need. How could an Express Funeral Funding client download that compassionate guide?
Yeah, so as a client of ours in our Express Hub, which is actually our online way to submit claims with us, we've included an entire resource library. So everything A to Z, everything you could imagine is at your fingertips without even having to contact us. So you would go to your Express Hub account and then hit that little I in the top right to go to our resource library. You could download it there. We could, of course, just mail this to your location. So you could just simply reach out to our team at marketing@expff.com, and we'll email you a copy. We'll, send you a digital one as well. So any way you need it, we'll get it to you.
On behalf of Johnson Consulting Group, thank you, Deanna, for sharing your expertise with our audience. And to our audience, thank you for joining Johnson Consulting Conversations. If you found value in today's discussion, please share the link when Maddie sends that out in the next 24 hours to your colleagues. It will have a summary blog post as well as a recording of this conversation with Deanna, and save the date for September the 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more insider perspectives that can transform how you serve families. Thank you, Deanna, and thank you, Maddie.
Thank you so much, ladies. This was so fun. Bye. Thank you, everyone.